Ahmet Alioğlu joins us now from Leicester. Ahmet, good to see you. Now, President Erdogan, as we just saw in his speech, had a lot of criticism, mainly to Western countries and organizations who have called this operation an invasion. But as we just heard there, he also had some criticism to Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Why is that?
Well, Ali Jan, this is a kind of an irony of history when Saudi Arabia is speaking about human rights and attacking civilians. As President Erdogan just stated very clearly, we have just to have a look at Yemen and how devastated is the country because of the Saudi invasion. If you look at the past 3 or 4 years, more than 20,000 Yemeni have been killed by the Saudi airstrikes, and now they're coming to preach Turkey about democracy. This is again a paradox. This is a hypocrisy that President Erdogan cannot accept. They should first wash the blood on their hands from the Khashoggi story, and then they look at the innocent people they've been killing in the past few years in Yemen. And when it comes to Egypt, who's been the Sisi, the general who's been killing people in Sinai, extrajudicial killing, forcibly disappearing people in the streets, and, you know, the crackdown on dissent, all of these things, and the murder of many of the opposition, the executions every day and night. And now the Arab League is kind of meeting in order to condemn what Turkey has been doing. We didn't hear any voice from the Arab League and these countries when all the powers were involved in the Syrian war. We're now just hearing from them when it comes to Turkey. They never think about the sensitivity of the Turkish concern with the terrorists on their own borders. And when it comes to the Western powers, Ali Jan, Turkey is very clear about it. If you do not have any options on the ground, if you do not present solutions, then we're going to open the border and let's see how you're going to deal with these refugees. You cannot just produce rhetoric and discourse and imagine that Turkey will buy into that. And at the same time, you're not receiving any of the burden you should be receiving. You're not held accountable for the refugees that are flooding Turkey, and you're sleeping safe in your own countries.
And that's one of the messages that was echoed by Turkey's Vice President Fuat Oktay there. Let's look within Syria and the main target of this military operation, the YPG. They're now threatening that this ongoing military offensive will lead to the quote-unquote fleeing of 2,000 Daesh fighters as well as their families. It will lead to the resurgence of this terrorist group. What is Turkey planning on doing in this regard?
Well, as the Vice President Ali Jan was just speaking, and before that, CNN Turk, Çavuşoğlu, the Turkish Foreign Minister, also spoke about this, that the YPG is using Daesh elements as the threatening stick. They're trying to tell the world, look, we're keeping these in prison. We have 2,000 and their families, they're in camps. And if in case Turkey is going ahead with its operation, then these elements will be out in the streets and will wreak havoc again, will lead to the rise of Daesh again. It's very simple. The idea is, with keeping these elements, the terrorist organization of YPG, you're just nurturing more radical elements than Daesh. So the only solution, from Turkey's opinion, is to eradicate the ideology of terrorist organization. These elements of YPG are the same as Daesh. There's no difference. They brush them with the same brush. And that is the problem that the international community does not recognize. If you're sincere about fighting Daesh, you need to take it as a whole. And Turkey promises, and its track record is very crystal clear in this issue, as the Vice President was saying, in fighting and combating terrorists, especially Daesh and the YPG. The only solution is to deal with the ideology, is to deal with the rehabilitation. And he just said something that Turkey is thinking about, is sending back these elements, Daesh elements, to their original countries. Most probably they're going to be the European countries, interestingly. So the only solution, as they've been saying, for Turkey is to deal with the roots of the problem, not the symptoms of the problem.
Okay. Here's a question for you. One of the key problems with how Turkey's operation is being presented in Western media is the fact that there's no real distinction between the YPG terror organization and regular Syrian Kurdish civilians. My question to you is, why is Turkey having such a difficult time getting its message abroad? Is this a deliberate act on behalf of Western media to not look at this, or is there something else behind it?
Well, Alijan, this is the elephant in the room, to be honest. Like, they absolutely understand that the YPG is the extension of PKK, and still, they refuse to understand that they are the same as the PKK elements. They try to generalize that Turkey is bombing the Kurds, which is absolutely a lie, a blunder. It's not true at all. Turkey is attacking these elements. If you think about HDP, that is the Kurdish political party in Turkey, they used to have 80 members in the parliament. Later they have 40 members. But the time you decide to resort to arms and you consider Abdullah Öcalan, the founder of the PKK, as your godfather and the founder of YPG, then you cannot accept or you cannot expect Turkey to accept you as a political partner and negotiate with you on the table. First, these elements need to completely give up resorting to arms, and then Turkey is more than happy to welcome them on the negotiating table and to find a political solution to what's going on there. The European countries and the United States proved to be not a sincere ally to them, and I think these militias now need to be reconsidering their strategies after the United States left them in vacuum. There's no policy for the European countries. France is just producing rhetoric. The United States, Donald Trump withdrew. The establishment is not happy, maybe, but at the end of the day, they're left alone. The only thing they can do is to give up arms and start a negotiation process with Turkey. That would save lots of lives and efforts on the ground and will save the civilians the suffering that they've been facing in the past 7 years now.
Ahmet, let's move on to sort of the Kurds in Syria. So you have the regular Kurdish Syrians as well as the Kurds that belong to this YPG. What do both groups want here? I mean, do both of them want to sort of break away from Syria and have their own country, or do they want a better or a stronger political representation, not only within the general power structure, but also within society? Or do they want to break away?
Well, to be honest, look, Alijan, the Kurds are in Iran, in Turkey, in Syria, and in Iraq. So they're part and parcel of the population of this region, and they're indigenous in that region. But at the same time, they should understand that there are other people in the region they should respect, and the sovereignty of each country is respected. They should work the same as other populations, other minorities or majorities in these countries to integrate with the political spectrum, with the majority there. They do have a very good stance in North Iraq, and they have the semi-kind of autonomous entity there in the KRG. They're also very powerful in Turkey, just with one condition: they should not resort to arms to solve the problems. It's only the negotiation table. That's the only thing that Turkey is asking for, and if they understand that, they would save lots of lives. Again, the point is, the Syrian regime, Iran, Russia will push that and would be more than happy to have a negotiation with them. And the only thing to do is to convince Turkey that they had completely separated themselves from the PKK, and they're part of these talks now about the constitution in Syria. If they're doing this, I think Turkey will buy into this and they will accept them as partners on the negotiation table.
Fair enough. All right. Our Church World Editor-at-Large